Welcome agents. Yesterday the devs did a 5-hour plus stream talking and showcasing lots of new stuff in the Division 2, like the Recalibration Station, blueprints, gear mods, skill mods and a lot more. The whole talk was over an hour long, and it wouldn't be fair of me just to upload the whole thing and expect you to find what it is you want to know about. With that in mind, I've spliced the stream up, and today we'll look at the high-end Recalibration Station, blueprints, included branded blueprints in detail, skill mods, and I'll give you my feedback on these changes. If you enjoy this video, please drop a like below and subscribe for dedicated Division content. Let's get into it. First up, let's take a look at the high-end Recalibration Station and high-end materials. The devs go over this in detail, so watch what they have to say.
That is a good question. How do you get branded blueprints?
Yeah, and these...
Are they a little bit different, or are they the same?
Yeah, so they work the same as the unbranded blueprints, but how you get them is a little bit more bespoke. So some of them will go on the endgame vendors, so you can actually buy them.
Cool.
Some of them come from doing certain activities. So if you have a weekly project to do, maybe you get a blueprint from there and stuff like that. And you can also like harass control points to make them give you blueprints if you want.
Right.
Yes.
You're not going to find high-end crafting materials at level 2.
No, you won't. However, when you craft high-end items, you'll still use like the whole range of materials. So if we look at this one here, it uses protective fabric, the gray base one, and electronics and ceramics, which are blue and green.
So all the different qualities. And then you do have the high-end requirement of the textile fur.
Exactly. And then we get into the high-end materials. They are brand materials. And we can have a look at them here. So if we look at the Badger one, so this is the Badger Tough textile fur. And this crafting material is specifically used for making Badger Tough items. And it's also acquired by breaking down Badger Tough gear. So when you deconstruct a high quality piece from this brand, you have a chance of getting this material coming out of it, basically.
That is a good question. So is there any drop chance for the branded materials?
So you won't get it from drops when killing enemies.
Okay.
However, there are some activities that will reward random brand materials, because it can be like if you want like Badger gear, and then to get the material, we require you to deconstruct some same branded gear to get that. Like, it doesn't really work out, right? Yeah. So if you haven't like hoarded up a bunch from before, you can do certain activities to get a random drop of them.
Okay, so projects and
projects.
Things? Okay. Bounties? I don't know.
Anyway. I think so. Yeah, we recently went through it and added it to a couple more places, so it's a little bit.
But it'll be in-game activities, and
yeah, it will be in-game for sure. Yeah, and also if you deconstruct gear of this brand that's like weaker or a type you don't want, or like they'll have the wrong rolls, then you can get this material out and then take a spin at the crafting bench. However, if we look at skill mods here. These are actually generated randomly. So if I would craft this unknown pulse mod here, we spend a bunch of materials, including the printer filament, the purple one, to spin the wheel. And then we get a mod for this skill, but we have less control over exactly where it fits.
Yeah. Keep in mind, everyone, another reminder, this is a development build.
Yes.
So there are things that are not being displayed, and there's also, you will not get high ends at level 2.
Yeah.
We have just tinkered around with it for, argument's sake, to be able to show you with a few things.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think that's what we can show you now. And then there's some...
Just quickly, you can upgrade your bench beyond high end?
Yeah, so when you hit the end game, you can upgrade it into the gear score ranges.
All right, like...
And then for when you progress through the world tiers, you can keep the bench with you, but then like you need to upgrade it, because the character stops leveling up, so it won't just be automatic. So it's treated like upgrading it quality-wise.
All right, so we learned quite a few things there, and I really like the idea of crafting brand blueprints. This was something I really wanted to come in until now, at least from what I saw. I've only seen blueprints for non-branded gear, so that's really, really good that we're going to get branded blueprints. On top of that, did you notice that they had 47 out of 180 blueprints? That's right. As of right now, there are 180 blueprints confirmed for the Division 2, which is just a crazy amount of stuff. when you consider all of the crazy amounts of stuff that's in this game already. Now, it would appear there is a blueprint for every piece of gear, weapon, mod, and the rest in the game, obtainable by various methods. I really like that. In order to sort of craft a Providence piece of gear, you require not only grey, green, and blue materials found in the world, but you will require Providence high-end materials obtainable by breaking down Providence gear, although the high-end material is not guaranteed doing it this way. However, the devs did confirm there will be certain activities that reward you with these materials, and the way it was explained to me suggests that certain activities will reward certain specific brand sets. For example, if you do this mission, it can only reward you with Petrov, Badgertuff, and Sokolov brand sets. Well, if you need materials for one of those three, then it's probably worth farming this mission to get the gear so you can break it down for those materials. On top of that, the devs did confirm you can get these materials from world activities, and the drop chance will be random. Of course, this does take a big step away from high-end materials in the Division, but the question is it the right step? Part of me is looking forward to the grind, because there will be a significant grind here, but another part of me thinks this is just a way to sort of prolong the grind, and certainly new players are going to really have a tough time, I imagine, trying to get to that sort of end game grind where most people will probably be if they start the game. I guess it does reward the hardcore players who grind for their gear, so I'm all for that. I was for that in the Division 1, so if that's what it's for, then hey, I'm good with that. What do you think about these changes, though? There's a lot here, and this was only a snippet of what the devs talked about, but I think I got all of it. Moving on, and the devs go on to talk about how recalibration works this time around. In light of my last video, the devs really explain in detail here and why they chose to change it. Take a look.
Recal. What were your main points you wanted to get across in this new system? Because in the Division 1 there was recalibration and optimization and crafting and that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you want to achieve with Recal?
All right, so with Recal, one thing that we wanted to approach was that it was very random, and you went in and just re-rolled until you got what you got. Mm-hmm. And having that type of like output randomness, as it's called, is not necessarily fun, because you just you press the button, it randomizes, you see the results, you select one if you want to redo it again. Mm-hmm. So, but it still has to be a random system, because if we would make a system that would just be, oh, you can go and just select a stat and, oh, this is what I want it to be maxed out, then like
it's not a game anymore.
No, you undercut the whole game, and yeah, that's not really what this is about. So we took an approach with what's called input randomness instead, where we make sure that you, in a random way, you find what you need. And then you can use that to predictably get what you want.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this is that it actually gives value to every drop now. So let's say I'm out in the world and I get, I'm mostly kitted out in high ends.
Yeah.
Or guess it, and then I find a purple piece of gear.
Yeah.
But it has a 6 stat on it.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could put it on my high end or whatever. Yeah. I can now do that.
Yeah, you can use that to transfer it. So we can explain the mechanic real quick, just to everyone who hasn't followed when we talked about this on the live stream for the closed beta. But basically, when you recalibrate, when you find an item in the world and you find a stat or talent on it that you like, you can transfer it to an item that you'd rather equip. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, you have a high-end set of knee pads, and it has 2 good stats on it, but then it has crit chance, and maybe you're not building for crit chance. Maybe you're building a tanky build with these knee pads. In another knee pad that drops, that's purple, or maybe a high-end, but it's the wrong brand, or it's not a gear set or whatever, we get a good roll of bonus armor, for example, for you. And then what you can do then is to use that roll of bonus armor to overwrite the crit chance on the knee pads that you actually want to have, and change it to be an armor roll by moving, using the stat from the trash item you found and like putting that into the item that you actually want, and then you customized it. So now we have that defensive armor stat rather than the crit chance that was useless to the build you were making.
Okay, so what happens to that, what we designated as the trash item? Does it receive the bonus from the one that you're recalling to? Does it swap or does it cannibalize that?
No, we break it down. So imagine that you're looking at a mask and like, oh, this one component is really good. I want it in my other mask. Then you need to like break it open and pry it out before you can like
so
take it out, and it destroys that item. Yeah.
Okay. So just before people are like, I have 2 great items. If only I could switch these 2 stats.
No.
And then have these 2 items. That's not going to happen.
No, don't do that.
It'll be
you
like,
can't
it's
do that.
gone.
Don't expect that.
All right. Okay, cool.
Exactly. So, but yeah, just like you said, it makes it so that anything that drops in the world is interesting. Because even if it's a lower quality, lower power, wrong brand, anything, it can have that one component that you actually want or need. And then you can use that as a material, essentially, for recalibration.
Cool.
What happens then is that it's within the same slot. So if you want to transfer something to knee pads, you need to take something from another set of knee pads.
Okay, so you can't go from like mask to knee pads.
No, because that would be weird. But imagine that you have a protective armor and you want to change out the plating, the bulletproof plating.
Yeah.
And then you take your glove and just drop that in there and throw out the armor piece. Like it doesn't really work. So no, it has to be the same type of garment, the same type of item.
Yeah.
And same with guns as well. Like if you have a pistol and try to jam a light machine gun mechanism into it, that just doesn't work. So it doesn't make sense at all.
It's like an LMG magazine stuck on the bottom of your pistol.
That'd
be cool.
Would be a big ass pistol.
Yes.
Making notes for future exotics.
Future exotics.
So it needs to be the same type of item. And then there's some restrictions of what you can do, because like we can't have you completely breaking the balance of the item either. So if you look at the weapons, for instance, which have the 3 different types of talents, you can only move it to the same slot. So if you want to move the advanced talent from your pistol to your other pistol, it needs to overwrite that advanced talent. So you can't be stacking these because they need to be of the same category. Yeah. So it's more about changing what you have like on the whole level, rather than making it stupidly overpowered by making combinations that really shouldn't exist in the game.
Okay.
And on gear, we have the offense, defense, utility category that we use to move over. So it's defense to defense. So my example of the knee pads actually didn't work. That's bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scratch that.
Yeah.
On that, well, what example does work?
So what would work is that, okay, you're not building for crit chance, and you find a roll of weapon damage. Then those are offense stats. Then you can replace your crit chance with your weapon damage, because you have a more like on-hit type of build.
Cool, got it.
So yeah.
Also, if I have a piece of armor or something that I have applied a recalibration to, that specific stat will be able to be recaled in the future, but the other ones will be locked.
Exactly. You can recalibrate one thing, and then you can recalibrate that how many times you want. Like
that's
there's
similar to
no
the first.
limit. Yeah. But you can't recalibrate everything. It's
same with talents, right?
Yes, exactly. But if you swap out a talent and you feel like, oh, this wasn't really for me, or maybe like further down the line you want to redefine your playstyle a bit, you can swap the talent out again without like losing the whole item, because that's a bit unfair if it's your favorite pistol then.
Nice. Yeah. This is a cool question. Is the stat scale to the level of the item I transfer it to? E.g., if I find like a purple item that has, let's say, 5% weapon damage, and that's the maximum on that piece of gear, and then if the high end can have 7%, will it be 5% from the item, like a direct copy and paste, or will it scale to be the maximum for the destination?
So I think what you see on the trash item, like the item that you want to take something from and move, that is like the possibility. So if you see 5% crit chance on knee pads that you don't want, if you transfer it, it can maximum only ever be 5% crit chance. But then, however, there's some stuff that's happening, especially in endgame, with how the stat is transferred. So if an item starts to grow in power, that stat will not necessarily look the same from what it was in the beginning to what it was on the other side. Okay. And each item in endgame also has a cap of like how much it can grow. So if you have a just example, gear score 200 item. I don't know if that's a valid number, but imagine we have one. Then that can only climb with 15 gear score. And then after that, you can't increase the power anymore because this was the potential of this item, and you need to find something with a higher base gear score to make that grow, to make it even stronger.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so because we don't want to undercut your progression through endgame, and we don't want to make it so you can just go in and stupidly overpower an item just like that. So yeah, when you find an item that's good, you can make it a little bit better, and then when you find an item that's even better, you can make that a little bit better without necessarily having to hold on to that old one.
I spoke about this in my last video, and for anyone who didn't check that out, I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, I really like the changes the devs have made here. It was very frustrating in the Division to randomly roll for certain stats, wasting credits over and over again. This time around, I can find the stat I want and transfer it to the brand set I want. I also think it's a good idea that the item has to be, of the same sort of value. It has to be the same piece of gear for it to transfer. Firstly, because it makes sense, and secondly, so it can be balanced properly. As you imagine, as they mentioned in stream, having a pistol with an LMG type mag. So, it does need to be pistol to pistol, gloves to gloves, and I think that's the way it should be done. Of course, what this ultimately means is that every piece of gear will be worth inspecting. I don't want to sort of reiterate everything the devs have just talked about, but I did want to highlight the main things I liked. One of them being the fact that in the Division, once you got past a certain point, then you kind of disregarded every piece of gear up until that sort of end game stuff when you were hitting those classified gear sets. If it wasn't classified gear sets, then I don't want to know about it. With this in mind, it does mean that you may have to inspect a piece of gear which is not, say, a classified version or the best gear in the game, which I believe in this game is going to be branded gear sets. You may want to still inspect a non-branded gear set, as it may have a stat or an attribute that you want on your branded set that you don't already have. So it does mean that you can't just dispose of gear straight away. You will have to check it out, and I think that's a good thing. As I said in my last video though, my only concern is that stash space may be a problem if you are keeping this gear aside so that you can transfer it over, but we'll have to wait and see about that. I will leave it here because this is already a very long video. There was a lot more in this stream, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link to the stream down below. It's about 1 hour and 10 minutes long. If any of you guys want to go and check out the full thing, then please do. There is a lot in there, and I could have made this video 1 hour long, definitely, but what I really wanted to do today was just sort of highlight the main stuff that I thought was worth talking about, the stuff that I think people are most interested in, because there's some very specific stuff in here which you may or may not want to know at this point, and you can go check that out for yourself. I'm not going to make an hour-long video. There are already people that have put this entire stream before, so if you want to check it out, then please do. With that said, make sure to turn on notifications, and that way you won't sort of miss any of my new videos that will be coming out very, very soon. And again, thank you very much for watching, because it does mean a lot. My last video did amazingly well, and all my videos up until now have been doing amazingly well. You guys are just absolutely awesome. Anyway, I'm just rambling here. Until the next one, epic out.